Police in Cape Town have launched an investigation after a major haul of illegal firearms and ammunition was uncovered during a targeted operation in Mitchell's Plain. Authorities there seized 19 illegal guns, dozens of magazines, a stun grenade, a silencer and well over 1,000 rounds of ammunition that were hidden in the house in Lentegeur. And that discovery comes as part of ongoing efforts to crack down on gang activity, particularly in the Cape Flats. And helping us to further unpack this is crime expert Professor Jacob Mofokeng. Professor, we do appreciate your time here on SA Today. Welcome. So, what can this investigation possibly uncover, Professor, from the vast series of gun-related crimes, specifically in this part of the province that is always synonymous with firearms as well as gun violence?
Yeah, thank you for having me and good afternoon to your viewers. This continuing operations by the police, it points to a pattern, in illegal firearms storage within the Western Cape, where we see houses as well as storage containers being used, to conceal these illegal firearms. So it is something that is, the police are highly commended, probably, a multitasking of other agencies together with the crime intelligence. We are aware that, there has been a high concentration of illegal firearms in specific gang-related areas like Nyanga, Cluster, and Mitchell's Plain. So now even Cape Flats, then we see that kind of where the police are now discovering, concealment of these firearms.
All right. Now, Professor, the real question, I suppose, also is where are the guns actually coming from, ending up in possession of these dangerous criminals? And has this been left so out of control that there are currently campaigns to deal with the scourge, but they all soon die down or fail?
Yeah, true. Research has pointed out that there are four main sources of illegal firearms, in South Africa. The first category being conflict guns, that were in circulations during the time of, apartheid. But also we've got cross-border trafficking where, countries such as Zimbabwe, Mozambique, they are the feeder into South Africa. Thirdly, we've got diversion of legal guns held by civilians as well as state, such as police, military, and other government departments. And fourthly, legal guns used illegally. So, we are aware that, the South African National Defence Force, holds the highest numbers of firearms, followed by the Zimbabwean National Army, of which then accountability in terms of stock taken within these agencies, including the South African Police Service and other, government departments that are holding over, in possession over 1 million of, firearms in South Africa. So, we don't know to what extent those that are discovered, in Cape Flats, whether they are linked with any government departments. But because of corruptions and because of porous borders, we still see the demands of, availability of these illegal firearms, especially in gang-related, places such as Western Cape and Cape Flats.
Absolutely, Professor. But what do you think then is the required approach or proactive measures, Professor, to this gang-fested violence that continues to rage on, specifically in the Cape Flats? We saw when the presidential team went to the White House early this year and how this was even flagged in the presence of Mr. Steenhuisen. Pierre recently calling for swift measures in addressing this impasse, blaming it in part, Professor, to the inhumane conditions that the communities here are actually subjected to. Women and children, of course, bearing the brunt of this hardship.
Yes, it points to, breaking the law where, the Firearm Control Act, 2000 requires government institutions, that possess firearms to put in place clear control mechanism, but also, the, lack of oversight, by public and parliamentary, institutions in South Africa. So in South Africa, yes, women as well as children, they bear the brunt of this, circulation of firearms, especially, you look at the prevalence of gender-based violence and other forms of violence where, youngsters, they look at the role models, gangsterism being used where these people also have access to money and living, a lavish lifestyle. So unfortunately, the government of the Western Cape, including that of ANC, as well as other role players, they have to really come with something that is workable, especially in terms of controlling, the scourge of violence crime, in South Africa. So it's something that still need to be, well researched, especially why, firearms are used in houses. So it means that people, because of a lack of income, they still now colluding with criminals to be able to use their facilities, like storages, as a places where they can also earn extra income to be able to hold that. So it talks about, integrated strategies that has to be implemented in prone areas where, we come across this high prevalence of circulation of firearms as well as violence in those areas.
Absolutely, Professor. We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your input this afternoon. That is Professor Jacob Mofokeng. He's a crime expert there, weighing in on the raging firearms and gun-related crimes and discoveries in the Cape Flats.